the Merchant Marines? It actually refers to the U.S. civilian mariners or U.S. civilian and federally owned ships. Mariners and ships. They primarily transport cargo and passengers during peacetime. During wartime, they become part auxiliary of the United States Navy, which is always crooked. Damn. I'm sorry, that just came out.
Yeah. Outstanding story.
Both the civilian mariners and those ships are managed by a combination of the federal government and private vessels, private enterprises. They engage in commerce or transportation of goods and services on the navigable waters of the United States of America. They operate and maintain deep-sea merchant ships, tugboats, towboats, ferries, dredges, excursion vessels, charter boats, waterborne craft. They do that in the oceans and the Great Lakes. They do it on the rivers and canals and harbors of all the waterways of the United States of America. As of October of 2018, there were over 200 ships in the Merchant Marines that weighed over 1 million tons. There were 800 vessels that is owned by the United States, but they're licensed with flags from other nations. I don't understand that part of it, but anyway. The federal government, part of Merchant Marines, maintained a military sea lift command and also the National Defense Reserve Fleet. They control that. Also, Merchant Marines are controlled by 25 other nations in pollution and safety and custom and laws of the sea. All of that training and all the licensing of Merchant Marine is responsibility of the United States Coast Guard. Now, you all know about West Point and Annapolis and Air Force Academy. Did you know there's a Merchant Marine Academy in Kingsport, New York? They train officers in the U.S. Merchant Marines, the military, or transportation industry. The midshipmen of the Merchant Marine Academy are trained in marine engineering, navigation, ship administration, maritime laws, personnel management, international laws and customs, and any subject that pertains to the United States running of ships. Now, just like the military, they must fulfill their requirements of 6 years after they spent 4 years in graduation. But they can fulfill their 6 years after in a different way. When you go to Annapolis or the West Point, you must go in the military. But if you go to West Merchant Marine Academy, you can fulfill your obligation a few different ways. You can be an officer on one of those ships. You can belong to just be a civilian in the maritime industry. You can belong to the Public Health Service. That fills your requirement. Or you can belong to and join the National Oceanic Atmospheric Association. And one more thing, if you come out of the Merchant Marine Academy, you can go into any military branch in the United States as an officer. I didn't know that. Admission to the Merchant Marine Academy are just like the other academies. You must have a good GPA and SAT. You must have good moral character. You must be 17 years of age. You must be a citizen of the United States. You must meet physical requirements. And just like the military, you have to have a Congress nomination to get into the Merchant Marine Academy. Now, if we look back in history a little bit about Merchant Marines, I'll go back to the Second World War. We lost over 800 vessels during the Second World War in Merchant Marines. We lost over 9,000 men in the Merchant Marines during the Second World War. But there was also 215,000 men that joined and belonged to the Merchant Marines. You all have heard of the Marines landing at Incheon during the Korean War. There were 74 vessels involved in that landing, but 26 of those vessels were Merchant Marine ships that were put in harm's way. During the Vietnam War, the Merchant Marines carried 95% of all the supplies that went to Nam. During the Gulf War, there were 230 ships involved in the Gulf War. During the Iraqi War, Merchant Marines accounted for 61 billion tons of supplies and 61 billion tons of fuel. Now, there is a few little differences. When they come out of the Merchant Marines and they're put in harm's way, They cannot receive a Bronze Star or a Silver Star. They have their own little medals, but they don't have very many at all. They are not eligible for a Bronze Star, Silver Star, or the Congressional Medal of Honor. They cannot receive any of those. That's the Merchant Marines. Now I'm going to read you something that I've seen most of you have probably seen and most of you have read, but I'd like to read it to you tonight to remind you of being a veteran and what it is. To understand a military veteran, you must know a few things. You see, we left home as teenagers and in our early 20s for an unknown adventure. We had no idea where we were going. We loved our country enough to defend it and protect it with our very own lives. We said goodbye to friends and family and everything we knew. We learned the basics and then we were scattered to the four corners of the earth. We found new friends and a new family. We become brothers and sisters regardless of color, race, or creed. We had plenty of good times and a whole bunch of bad times. We didn't get enough sleep. We didn't smoke. We smoked and drank probably too much. We worked hard and we played harder. And we didn't even earn a decent wage. We experienced the happiness of a mail call and the sadness of not being home for the holidays. We didn't know when or even if we'd ever come back home again. We grew up fast and yet somehow we really didn't grow up at all. We fought for our freedom and freedom of others. Some of us saw actual combat, some of us didn't. Some of us saw the world and some of us didn't. Some of us dealt with physical warfare. A lot of us are still dealing with psychological warfare. We have seen and experienced and dealt with things we cannot fully describe or explain. And not all our sacrifices were physical. We participated in time-honored ceremonies and rituals with each other. We counted on each other to get jobs done, and we also counted on each other just to survive it all. We have dealt with victory. We have dealt with tragedy. We have celebrated, we have mourned, and we have lost a few along the way. And when our adventure was over, some of us went home. Some of us went somewhere new. And some of us never came home at all. We have told amazing and hilarious stories of our exploits and our adventures. But we spoke and speak and share an unspoken bond with each other that most people don't understand or can't explain. We speak highly of our own branch of the service and we poke fun of the others, but we also know that we stand behind each brother and we do it in a heartbeat. Being a veteran is something that had to be earned and it could never be taken away. It has no monetary value, but it is a priceless gift. People see a veteran and they say thank you. We see each other and we wave and smile, knowing what we have experienced and share each other. So tonight I want to say to all of you, thank you for what you have done for our country, your sacrifices for me and our country. Try to remember the good times and make peace with the bad. Share your stories, but most of all, stand up and stand tall and be proud because you have earned the right to be called the United States military veteran. I am a U.S. military veteran.